The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP's top scam, is being uncovered and cleared up. It's the CCP's worst fear in 2023. What is the scam? It is the notion that the CCP is the same as China, that to love China is to love the CCP, and to condemn the CCP is to discriminate against the Chinese people. On January 7, 2023, the new U.S. House of Representatives was sworn in, and the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who was hated by the CCP, is finally gone. But it's done little to make Beijing happy because the new Speaker, House Republican Leader Kevin McCarthy, is even more outspoken and critical of the CCP. As the 118th U.S. Congress took office, it has launched heavyweight policies over the past few days. On January 10th, it voted 365-265 to establish a special committee, namely the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, to reassess U.S. foreign policy toward China. A few Democrats claim the committee would stir up racial hatred against Chinese Americans. In his message, the first chairman, Republican U.S. Representative Mike Gallagher said,
"We need to have a united front here in Congress to counter the Chinese Communist Party. And in so doing, at every step along the way, we must make sure that we are drawing a distinction between the party and the Chinese people, with whom we have no quarrel, and who are often the primary victims of CCP aggression and repression."
Gallagher thanked Speaker McCarthy for his leadership in establishing a special committee to ensure bipartisanship.
Today, due to its aggression and its economic strength, and our unique economic entanglement with it, the Chinese Communist Party represents an even greater test for American diplomacy.
The U.S. has clearly distinguished the CCP from China since the Trump administration, with former Secretary of State Pompeo repeatedly emphasizing that the CCP is not the same as the Chinese people, and that the U.S.-China conflict is only a conflict between the United States and the CCP. This time, the special committee is deliberately named as a strategic competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party, indicating that the U.S. Congress has inherited and developed the previous administration's philosophy of making a clear distinction between the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people. In an interview with Breitbart News on January 14th, the special committee chairman, Mike Gallagher, said, "It's easy for some Americans to say, well, that it's pretty far away, why should we care? Who cares if China becomes, the dominant power in Asia?" He responded, "What happens in China would not stay in China either. The CCP's ambitions are the triumph of world socialism with Chinese characteristics, which implies the demise or the extreme diminishment of the free world capitalist system led by the U.S." He said he wants to focus on the Communist Party's global influence initiative and the U.S. defense of Taiwan. He also called out two things that seemed relatively minor. Banning TikTok, for example, is tied to the broader issue of cross-border data flows. The issue of Chinese Communist police stations on U.S. soil is also something that was brought to our attention. Gallagher said the committee hopes to conduct a series of hearings on the topics of how we got China wrong and false assumptions about the Chinese Communist Party and how that should influence future policy, as well as hearing from victims of the CCP regime and the TikTok hearings. He stated that the committee would be prepared to issue subpoenas if necessary. In a January 11th interview with Hugh Hewitt, when asked if he intended to call Disney CEO Bob Iger on NBA President Adam Silver to testify before the committee, Gallagher gave a straightforward answer. "Yes, I intend to do that." Both Iger and Silver have drawn criticism in recent years. Critics have argued that by kowtowing to the CCP, they have effectively imposed communist censorship on American soil. Iger, who recently returned to Disney as CEO, is widely expected to travel to China in the coming months to try to smooth the company's relationship with the CCP. TikTok is a short video sharing and social networking application owned by the Chinese technology company ByteDance. There are national security concerns for the U.S. regarding the user data that the Chinese Communist government may request from ByteDance. Analysis of various versions of TikTok has found that the software collects user information such as the user's keystrokes, takes screenshots every few seconds, and accesses data from the phone's clipboard and collects the device's unique IP address. This data may include passwords and other sensitive information that will give them access to not only the TikTok app, but also access to other apps used by the device, such as email, text messages, e-health apps, and more. CCP law classifies data as a national resource and requires companies in China or majority-owned Chinese entities to turn over all data, including proprietary source code and other intellectual property, to CCP authorities upon request. U.S. lawmakers have denounced TikTok's ties to the CCP through its parent company ByteDance and said the company is collecting data on Americans for the communist regime. The U.S. Congress, the Department of Defense, various federal agencies, state governments, corporations, and several governments in other countries have banned TikTok from their devices due to concerns about national security.
The head of the FBI, Chris Wray, has said it's a threat to U.S. national security. Do you agree?
I do. I mean, I think it's a genuine concern, I think, for the U.S. government, in the sense that because the parent company of TikTok is a Chinese company, the Chinese government is able to, insist upon extracting the private data of a lot of TikTok users in this country, and also to shape the content of what goes on to TikTok as well, to suit the interests of the Chinese leadership. I think those are real challenges and a source of real concern.
More than 24 American states have taken action to ban TikTok on government devices. New to the mix are Wisconsin and New Jersey, which are among the few Democratic-led states to ban such platforms. Now the FBI is placing targeted ads on social media asking members of the Chinese community in the U.S. to report any harm from the CCP regime while living in the U.S. to law enforcement. The ad says, "Attention, are you a victim of any of the following crimes?" The ad then lists a series of crimes including being cyberstalked, cyber harassment, physical harassment, assault, extortion, blackmail, and harassment through Chinese social media apps such as WeChat. The ads say, "If so, you may be the victim of a transnational crackdown by the Chinese government." The ad has been running since December 28, 2022, and is aimed at people aged 25 to 44 in the greater Philadelphia area. It appears to be part of a larger FBI operation to eradicate a transnational crackdown orchestrated by the CCP. Of the 12 major cases of transnational repression listed on the FBI's official website, 10 are related to China's current one-party authoritarian communist regime. Republican Senator Rick Scott of Florida sent a letter to the FBI director on January 13th, requesting action against these violations of U.S. sovereignty and proposing that the FBI work with the State Department to disclose the names of Communist Party police stations overseas. On January 12th, the New York Times quoted sources familiar with the matter as saying that last fall, FBI counterintelligence agents raided the Fujian Changlao Guild building in New York's Chinatown, where Fuzhou City Public Security Bureau of PRC was stationed in the U.S. The FBI's raid was the first of its kind in the world to target such a police station for gathering evidence. Currently, officials in Ireland, Canada, and the Netherlands are calling on Beijing to halt police operations in their countries. According to a recent report by the human rights NGO Safeguard Defenders, Chinese police now have at least 102 overseas police service centers in foreign countries. The Chinese embassy in Washington has again downplayed the role of the overseas police stations, saying that they are volunteers who help Chinese citizens with everyday tasks such as renewing their driver's licenses. We previously featured a segment on the CCP's overseas police, which has been yellow labeled. The link is included in the description box below the video. It is clear that the blow to the CCP will be comprehensive. We anticipate that the new committee will act in the following areas. First is the COVID investigation. Republican partisans have already promised to launch 5 investigations in this Congress, including COVID-19 origins. The other 4 are partisan and may not all be realized due to bipartisanship. However, the border crisis and the virus origin investigation are the most likely to gain unanimous support. The second is to protect American businesses and farmland from communist encroachment. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado tweeted, "From stealing trade secrets to buying massive amounts of farmland in my district, China is spreading its malign influence in our country." The third is to promote the relocation of industrial chains. Democratic Representative Josh Gottheimer tweeted that his cross-party Problem Solvers Caucus will work to fight the Chinese Communist Party, fight for affordability, lower taxes, address the opioid and mental health crisis, pay down the debt, protect seniors from fraud, expand domestic manufacturing in the U.S., invest in law enforcement, and support veterans. Notably, on January 10th, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce also expressed support for the creation of such a committee. In a statement, Chamber Executive Vice President Neil Bradley said, "It is critical that we hold Beijing accountable for its unfair business practices, use of economic coercion, and fundamental challenges to America's national security and values." The China Committee has the support of civil society and cross-party support. It's vital and significant in a divided America as it'll form a series of U.S. bills to launch a strike against the CCP. The founding of the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party is, without a doubt, bad news for the CCP. We hope that the relevant parties on the U.S. side will look at China and Sino-U.S. relations objectively and rationally, act in the U.S.'s own interests and in the interests of both sides, move in the same direction as the Chinese side, and promote the development of a mutually respectful, peaceful coexistence and a win-win cooperation in Sino-U.S. relations. The CCP media Global Times published a front-page article on January 12th criticizing the new committee set up by the U.S. House of Representatives as a show of toughness against China. The article criticized the committee as an important signal that anti-China forces from both parties in the U.S. Congress are assembling for a new Cold War against China. The Chinese Communist Party has its roots in the people, its bloodline in the people, and its strength in the people. Any attempt to divide and oppose the CCP from the Chinese people will never succeed. More than 95 million Chinese communists won't agree, and neither will more than 1.4 billion Chinese people. The current issue of the CCP Central Committee Media published a commentator's article with the headline, "The Party and the People are Inseparable." Now, the CCP is feeling obvious pressure. On January 10th, the Financial Times published a lengthy report headline, "Xi Jinping's Plan to Reset China's Economy and Win Back Friends." It says CCP officials and government advisors claim the Chinese Communist government is developing a policy to reset China's economy and improve severely deteriorated diplomatic relations. The reason is that pressure from all sides, economic, social, and diplomatic, has reached a tipping point. Another sign that the CCP is seeking to de-escalate its confrontation with the West is the transfer of the most vocal wolf warrior diplomat Zhao Lijian. He was reassigned to the Foreign Ministry as Deputy Director General for Border and Maritime Affairs. Experts and scholars see his reassignment as a sign of being sidelined and that the new Foreign Minister, previous Chinese ambassador to the U.S. Qin Gang, may have been behind the move. In an opinion piece published in the Washington Post on January 4th, titled, "The Planet's Future Depends on a Stable China-U.S. Relationship," Mr. Qin Gang explained that he visited corn farms in Missouri during his tenure as China's ambassador to the U.S. He also visited the ports of Boston and Long Beach to see the large number of containers being shipped to China. In the article, Qin argues that the door to the U.S.-China relationship is open and will not close. After ending the 3-year policy of dynamic zero-COVID controls and being faced with external and internal distress, Beijing has returned from a struggle philosophy to pragmatism. It should be acknowledged that many in the West still seem to have illusions that the CCP will return to a pragmatic policy of reform and opening up. But more Westerners have also seen that the CCP's shift from one extreme to the other offers no reassurance to anyone. It only demonstrates how unpredictable policy can become under the rule of a communist dictator. One example of the lack of essential change in the CCP's diplomatic wolf warrior style was the announcement by the Beijing government on January 10th that it would suspend the issuance of short-term visas to South Korea and Japanese citizens in response to border precautions imposed by those countries on travelers from China to curb the spread of COVID-19. Both the Japanese and South Korean governments have accused the CCP of making a political move that is unrelated to COVID. In fact, no one in the world sees China as the enemy. It is the CCP that regards people with universal values as the enemy. The Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the US and the Chinese Communist Party is also helping the Chinese people understand in a straightforward way that the CCP is at the heart of the real problem. The Communist Party is parasitical to the Chinese people, and if the party and the people are separated, those who hold power are the ones losing their feeders because they themselves simply don't produce any value. The 3-year epidemic from the harsh zero-COVID policy to the hasty opening up and the subsequent viral tsunami has rendered the CCP's repeated proclamation of People First an absurd slogan. At the top of the pyramid of the Communist Party system are some 500 families that hold all the privileges of the Communist Party, while the rest of the party members have nothing special to gain and are part of the Chinese middle class or lower. In the economic downturn, many of them are unemployed and laid off. Even if they manage to join the civil service, they are now facing a pay cut, which ranges from 10% to 25% depending on the locality. Close down, bankruptcy, unemployment, the era of debts for everyone is coming. Let's analyze it from several aspects. First, in the year 2022, the spread of the epidemic caused many industries to close down. The people's consumption power has also dropped significantly. According to public data, 780 million people are in debt, and 420 million people are facing the plight of not being able to repay their debts. The total debt of the entire population is as high as 30 trillion American dollars, and the per capita debt is more than 20,000 American dollars. According to incomplete statistics, these debts mainly come from car loans, home loans, credit card loans, and online loans. As a result of the epidemic, the number of people in debt continues to grow dramatically. Second, more than 22 million businesses have closed as a result of the recurring epidemic. According to the General Administration of Market Supervision, in 2021, nearly 3.5 million enterprises and more than 9 million individual businesses were dissolved in the country. In the first half of 2022, more than 460,000 enterprises closed, 3.1 million individual businesses were deregistered, and 400 Starbucks stores in China were closed. The education and training industry has been transitioning or shutting down. Internet companies continue to lay off employees, and small and medium-sized enterprises are having a tough time. According to the survey, SMEs are facing a cash flow crisis, with only 20.7% of SMEs having the necessary cash flow. The epidemic has led to the rapid passing of a large number of veteran Communist Party cadres, which has resulted in resentment among their families. For example, on December 19, 2022, a senior official in Beijing's political and legal system confessed to a reporter from Radio Free Asia that he had always thought he enjoyed tremendous social resources, but what had happened before his eyes had awakened him instantly to the fact that he was unable to protect even his own loved ones.